All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this 13th edition of our Alliance AI Roundtable. So this one's going to be on how CEOs are charting out their AI agent transformations. It was over a year ago, early last year, when basically I noticed virtually every CEO I was talking to was experimenting and with ChatGPT and other AI tools out there, and we continue to experiment. And I'm pleased to say, since May of last year, when we first started measuring how many of you were actually using AI in some way, the percent of CEOs using AI has grown from 70% to 92%. So I don't know who the 8% are out there, but 92% are experimenting or using deeply AI, and the percent of you that are seeing good or better results has increased from 50% to 68%. So 2/3 of CEOs out there are finding positive results. So congratulations. Today, I'm pleased to welcome our moderator, Matthew Swanson, founder of the Silicon Valley Software Group and Motion Enterprises. And he'll be talking with Vadim Rogovsky, CEO of Eve and Rebel Capital. And we're going to learn about how Vadim is using historical emails to identify ways to drive more revenue, address a variety of issues, and really transform companies. So with that, Matthew, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Paul. To set the context, last time we spoke about reasoning models. We showed some demos of how these new models give AI agents new automation capabilities. In this session, we're going to continue our series on AI agent automation by hearing from Vadim Rogovsky about his AI transformation journey with a company that his investment firm has recently acquired. So we're going to go into how Vadim is using AI to mine emails in order to determine where to prioritize improvements. This is an area that I've heard come up a number of times in breakout groups. So excited to have Vadim join us and share firsthand how he's doing that with Rebel Capital. So Vadim is the founder of the investment firm Rebel Capital, which is acquiring SMB software businesses that have high growth potential, that have opportunities to be transformed with AI. Vadim is a serial tech entrepreneur. He's founded 4 companies, including his most recent AI company, Eve, which is a co-pilot for business owners. So with that, Vadim, welcome. Thank you for joining us today and sharing your journey. We like to kick things off with a rapid fire intro just to help us orient kind of where you're coming from. And, we're always on the hunt for new tools to start experimenting with. So, first question, what's one of your favorite AI tools you've come across recently?
Hi everyone, excited to be here. Recently, what we discovered, one of the new AI tools that we started using with one of my teams is the tool called Card, CARRD.com. What they do, they generate landing pages immediately, just after a few prompts that you can easily host on your website. They are with responsive design, work on every kind of screen. So we just stopped using human designers for marketing experiments. When we have an idea of a new product or a solution, before we even build the product or build a solution, we create a landing page, create outreach campaign, and send it out through LinkedIn messages, through emails, etc. And if it works, we call it like message market fit. If message market fit clicks, then we go and develop it.
Very cool. Yeah, it's haven't come across that tool yet. We'll check it out. Continue that theme. There's so many new AI tools coming out, but so many that have yet to meet commercial traction. What's one tool you're on the hunt for?
What I'm looking for to solve?
Yeah, if there was a business problem that you would really like to solve with AI, what tools missing in the marketplace today?
Well, that's a good question. I think, I mean, yeah, still, I mean, even like meeting scheduling is not properly solved yet, which is such an obvious thing. And we started with it in my AI company. We kind of like we solved it, like we solved the logistics. If you want to schedule a meeting with someone, like our agents can do it really automatically. But the thing is, who do you need to talk to? Like more like personal CRM. Yes, like personal CRM. So personal CRM is not solved yet. There are so many solutions to help you to manage your network of connections, but none of them is really is decent in any way, and that's one of the things I think should exist.
I agree. Let me know when you find it. That would be a very useful tool. So, last question before we get into our talk track. Um, what do you do outside of AI? What do you do for fun?
Yeah, I just moved to Foster City, Bay Area, 2 weeks ago. I'm looking for tennis partners here. So if anyone is in the area, just let me know.
I'm sure you'll
Mhm.
find a few here. All right, so we're gonna now get into our talk track. One of the things that really stood out when you and I first met is your thesis around acquiring companies and transforming them with AI. Basically, seeing that opportunity where there's just a lot of businesses out there that need to go through a lot of change, and so one way to do that is through M&A. Yeah, maybe let's start there. What drove you to this approach? What was your inspiration?
Yeah, so how I got into entrepreneurship through acquisition, because I've been a founder 3 times at first. Then I was a venture capitalist for 3 years. Just I joined my friend and we launched a small $23 million fund to invest in early stage startups. But then I realized that something is missing there. Like in the VC world, you don't really create value. You just invest small checks in startups and then you just pray and wait until a miracle happens. But so that's why I was looking for something in the middle, like entrepreneurship, but also like to be able to work with multiple companies, but also to be able to create value and not just put money there and wait. And that's how I got into entrepreneurship through acquisition. So we started Rebel Capital to look for software companies with big growth potential, but with a lot of inefficiencies, not even a lot of it, with inefficiencies that we can fix quickly. Because there are some inefficiencies you cannot fix quickly, like wrong market or wrong timing. But but there are inefficiencies at least we can fix quickly, which is uh, like digital marketing. Like if there is no marketing or sales or support or clients leave because there is not enough customer success or customer support, that's great because we can come in and fix it. But why this is great? Because we can buy a company with a discount because of that. So for us, we were losing. So we were looking for these types of companies, and also if you apply AI there, of course you can unlock even more productivity gains. Yeah, so that's what makes me excited about it.
Yeah, it's a novel approach that's gaining a lot of traction. Another thing that kind of stood out about your approach is, looking at a legacy business through the lens of their historical emails as a starting point for AI. Maybe before we get into the slideware of how you're using this new tool across one of your businesses, maybe share the motivation there of why email as a starting point?
Yeah, great question. So when we were acquiring the first business, yeah, when we just closed the transaction, and I'll tell you more about the business when we will be going through the slides. The owner had his email for 17 years, and he was obviously in almost every small business, he was managing multiple, like he was managing almost everything. He was wearing multiple hats, and that's why there was a treasure trove of data sitting in his email, like everything, like all the sales were going through his email, communication with developers, like development backlog, like yeah, and he agreed to share his email credentials with us. But then we realized that how we can process hundreds of thousands of emails to understand like what was going on, and how we can use that data to go after old clients, to go after clients we need to reactivate. Maybe there are some unpaid invoices. Maybe there are some liabilities we don't know about. Maybe there are some opportunities, and there are no tools to get inside to analyze historical email data, because it's, first of all, it's hard technologically. Secondly, just, I mean, they will exist, but probably they just, I mean, the AI capabilities to solve it just started to exist very, very, very recently. That's why just we didn't find any solutions yet. We decided to build one, and yeah, that's how I got into this. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, well, email is kind of a frontier of AI, and ironically, given that it's such an old technology, but it's been so hard to organize our emails and what have you, and we all are sitting on mountains of them, and so really interested in going deeper here into your journey. So let's do that. Let's get into some slideware about how you um, approached the AI transformation journey at Leaderture. So, agenda-wise, we'll talk about this company that you recently acquired. We'll walk through some of the key findings that came out of the AI agent, and then finally a little primer on some of the technologies used. So, first off, can you characterize the business? These are some of the relevant stats, but anything you want to share about the nature of the company that you recently acquired?
Yeah, it's called Leadership.com. It's event software company that provides a full suite of solutions to run trade shows, to run conferences. Starting with, it's like one-stop solution for a business that wants to run an event, starting with badge scanning, badge printing, attendee portal, all the analytics surveys, RFID tracking, etc., etc. They also rent out equipment if you need any badge scanners, badge printers, etc. Yeah, and they also had some service component as well. The company was in business for 17 years, and it's had a pretty lean team when we acquired it. Yeah, so they had bigger team, but now we don't need such a big team. But yeah, and that's what, yeah, and we just wanted to, because the company didn't have almost any sales and marketing at all. They didn't ever have a proper, like the website was very old, like no search engine optimization, like nothing really, because all the business was coming through a word of mouth. And the company was much bigger before COVID, but they only started to recover recently, but that was the right time for us to come in. So that's why, because we want to start growing it pretty quickly, because we see the potential to 10x the revenue in the next like 3-4 years. Then definitely we needed to go inside the historical data to see what opportunities we can activate. And because they were using CRM system, but not very actively. That's then we quickly realized that all this data, like 90% of this data that we need, it sits inside the email, the mailbox of the business owner. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and again, I think it's so relatable, right? Like even teams here who have a CRM, it's so hard to get our teams to, map what they're doing in email into the CRM, and so it's kind of an interesting insight that, well, let's just go straight to the source. Let's go to the email. So we're going to get into now some of the findings. What we'll come back to how you produce these, but I think this is worth just kind of starting the conversation on things your AI agent was able to find by just sifting through those, historical emails. So, right off the bat, you found $500,000 of revenue potential. Break this down for us.
Yeah, I mean, we just ran the first report for the last 180 days, just because I mean, like to analyze all the 17 years, we need like a bit more, I mean, like it's not super easy with the current solution. We are waiting for a new next release of our AI tool. So now we were able to do it for 180 days, and we found 535K. I mean, revenue opportunities. I mean, mostly it's just leads that came in through different channels. Maybe it's old customers, old previous customers that went back, or maybe just some leads that came through word of mouth or through the website that just slipped through the cracks because because our current VP of sales, he's basically like he's also acting as a salesperson, so he just does everything, and it's just yeah, I mean, like 20% of leads just can just fall through the cracks, right? Because they were, or someone was waiting for a customized pricing proposal or or an answer to some technical question, and just and he slipped through the cracks. So that's what we found. This is like immediate revenue opportunities, meaning that they're urgent. They're waiting for some materials to get going. We also we analyzed like the most frequent reasons why this is happening, and we found out that like a turnaround delays, pricing bottleneck, like 5 high value prospects, and there are some examples. They're just waiting for quotes, and it's taking longer than they expect, or even demos just were not scheduled on time. And this is just an example below, one of the leads that came in, and they were waiting for an offer, but then just kind of it slipped through the cracks because Josh was working on something much more urgent, and then he forgot about it, and it's not his it's not his fault, but our AI just gonna be helping people managing like small organizations and wearing multiple hats to become much more efficient.
Yeah, we'll get into actioning in a second, but I think we all have this fleeting suspicion that there's a lot of situations like this in our businesses. So really interesting to see some examples of that. So there was one category of findings around revenue potential. I think another one that you were really excited about was finding places to improve customer relationships, minimize churn. Tell us a little bit more about this analysis from the AI.
Yeah, I mean, we also connected with like to the mailbox of the CTO of the company, who is very involved in every custom integration with enterprise clients, and he was on every thread where these matters were discussed over the years, and that's why like for the last 180 days, that's what we figure out that why some customers churned or never converted, because the integration or compatibility issues is like number one problem, and then there are a few other problems as well. But these are the things that we immediately started to act on, because and also there were some more actionable recommendations how to fix that. For example, to create service level agreements, to create knowledge base with some FAQs related to support, and that's what we already started to work on.
Well, yeah, and let's go there. So, it's one thing to have insights as to where the opportunities are. If you're starting from scratch like you, or you just walked in for the first time, or a lot of us here are embarking on our AI transformation, and we're just trying to figure out, okay, how do we get a lay of the land of where to start? So having insights there is helpful, but then actioning is kind of the next step. And so tell us a little bit more about how you're using AI to determine what to do next, given these insights.
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate outcome of these AI reports is going to be that our AI copilot is going to be telling, business leader that, hey, these are the things you need to take care of in the next 24 hours. These are the things you need to take care of in the next 5 days, right? So like this is all about priorities, and first of all, it's like depending on the revenue potential of this. So how we define priorities? Basically, depending on revenue potential. And that's why that's how we recommend next actions. And these actions are usually what? This is follow-ups, right? This is like preparing some custom, especially if you need to prepare something customized. This is what usually causes disruption, because then you get distracted and then you forget about it. And that's what it is. So that's what our AI tool is helping with. Yeah, like what else? Yeah, so we are like, yeah, so as I said, we are also, we decided to create a service level agreement. So our small team knows when the time frame they need to respond within, right? So they need to respond fast because now they are accountable. Like we didn't have any knowledge base, any centralized knowledge base, and now we're working on that also with the help of AI. And some really and also some client related stuff related to particular organizations. We just raised the priority of that.
Yep. And so, just, before we move on, just so we all can appreciate what's going on here. So, what we're seeing on this screen, how much of this was generated by AI versus human oversight?
I mean, I mean, if you look at these things, I mean, of course, still, I mean, our VP sales, he's still sending all the emails, right? But the idea is, and in the next month or so, we'll have a kind of the release of our the next release of our AI Copilot, and we'll be able to also not just recommend you things to do, but to do these actions for you, meaning to send a personalized email to someone, right, with deep business context. It's not, I'm not talking about drafted emails that you can already get through Google Gemini or, I don't know, Superhuman. It's just polite, generic emails. No, I'm talking about emails with deep business context. So our agents will be able, if you want, to send these emails for you, to schedule calls for you, to prepare some customized proposal. So that's what we are working on. The vision here is that the small business owner should automate 80% of the minutia, because that's what they do. Like every day, 80% of what they do is usually pretty much repetitive stuff, right? And to spend the remaining 20% of time doing some creative things and doing some in-person business development and meeting people in person. That's what AI probably is not going to replace in the nearest future.
Yeah. So today your AI is able to generate insights, and where you're going with this is AI agent automation, which I think a lot of us are exploring here as well. So we'll send some leave behind materials, but anything to comment on? You spent how long did it take for you to create your solution?
A good question. Yes, this is our tech stack. Yeah, I mean, I was lucky to meet my technical co-founders when they already were working on knowledge graphs and on structure, on basically analyzing big volumes of unstructured data. So it was a perfect fit for my idea to use email data as the foundation here. And also, I wanted to stop for a few seconds on this topic because why we decided to focus on email data, because we realized that small business owners, they don't even many of them just barely use AI, and we saw that many people were still very happy that they use Salesforce. They saw that this is the most up-to-date piece of software they have in their business, and it means that because they just don't have time to look for other solutions. Right? They just don't have. They don't need another agent, and they don't need another platform to build an agent, because they don't have time for that. And also, still, it requires some expertise. It's still not as easy as it is advertised to build your agent. It's not as easy. It's going to be much easier, of course, but as of today, it's not happening. So, so they need a solution that can deliver value immediately. And how do you deliver value immediately? You need to understand business context. And how do you understand business context? You need to connect to some kind of system of record, right? And in this case, email is the best one, because if this is a business with revenues under under $10 million per year, usually it sits in the email, often on the phone as well, but still then quotes are being sent by email and everything else, right? So that's why we decided that the best way for us to start delivering value immediately after integration, it's to connect to historical data in the emails, because otherwise people were saying to us, hey, if you're just showing me the reports, but I still need to do the work, thank you for that, but I don't have time so you're adding more work. So that's why we want to show the report, but then also act on, like according to the recommendations sitting in this report. And now getting back to your question, we officially started building the Copilot, I would say probably like 9 months ago, but my technical counterparts, they were working on knowledge graphs for a year before it. So that's why it was kind of the backend foundation was already kind of in place, but we needed to understand our audience and we needed to build the front end. And that's what we've been doing mostly for the last 9 months. And now we are almost ready to go live officially in public.
Very exciting. Well, that gives us some reference points for anyone here who is charting out AI efforts on, some places where we can think about applying AI, some of the tools we can use, and some time frames. We have a couple of minutes left here, and wanted to kind of dive into a couple of the topics about the process itself. So, you took us through kind of a high level of, the type of data you were looking for, how you built the tools, but maybe tell us a little bit about organizing data. I mean, I think a lot of us are at the point where, we're convinced that AI can do wonderful things if it has access to data, but we're all struggling to connect our proprietary data with AI systems. So, one question would be about, how did you go about organizing email? Like, give us a little bit of the in the weeds of, the process of taking, years of email data and organizing that.
You mean like on a like maybe like can you add a bit more color like to your question in terms of like more technicalities or more like what do you want me to cover? Because I can talk a lot.
Yeah, no,
About it.
so you got the keys to the company, and then, was it we all would like the easy button to say, just put all of my emails into ChatGPT, but clearly it's not that easy, right? So what were some of the
Oh yeah.
practical steps you had to go through before you could really start asking questions about your emails with
Oh
AI?
yeah, I mean, we went through many iterations. At first, we realized like, okay, before we build this solution, and again, like we had the backend ready to process data, but we didn't know what data to process and where. And like, so yeah, we needed to understand the use case, and we're like, okay, let's imagine we are just. I mean, yeah, I think it's a rule of thumb that if you want to recreate a workflow using AI, at first you need to do it manually. You need to do it manually. You need to describe it. If you can describe it on paper, it means you can automate it using AI. If you cannot describe it on paper, then probably AI is not going to help you. So we sat down internally, and we said, hey, let's imagine we are McKinsey consultants. We want to just get inside this business and understand and analyze historical data, and then just provide us a solution. Yeah, and we are paid by the hour, and we just want to do it manually, right? And we started to look for a solution. Like we decided, oh, okay, we thought maybe ChatGPT or maybe Claude or maybe we can use like existing, uh, existing LLMs to help us. But we were very surprised that even if you connect, like ChatGPT at that time, it was not able to connect to your email. They just released email integration if you use deep research. And still it's very tricky. But Claude by Anthropic, you could connect your email to Claude, but Claude could look at your last 5 or 10 emails, and that's it. So you can just look by 5 emails all the time, and it will take you probably maybe a year for one person to go through hundreds of thousands of emails. And also, it's just you need to read all of them. We do because you cannot automate that. And we decided that it's just gonna be extremely inefficient to just do it manually. And then we started to play. Yeah, we basically we didn't have automated integration through Google or Microsoft, right? So we just We started to test it on this company, and also on my another company that I previously founded. We basically just took the email data through. We just exported email data manually and just connected it to our backend and just started running some prompts manually. And we realized that, okay, now we can how we identify signals properly, because how we identify who is existing customer, who is potential customer, who is churn customer, who is just partner, and where is this is just an unsolicited outreach, and we shouldn't be doing anything about it. And realize this is hard, right? Because you need to build like a classification, like to understand types of entities you're dealing with, and also you need to understand the ideal customer profiles. Like, okay, like does it fit the customer profile? So like our first internal POC, like proof of concept, was, can we build an executive summary of the business just by using email data? And turns out we can. And then when we compare this versus executive summary that you built just from public sources, like the website, what website says, some press releases you can read, like social media, we understood that in the cases we've seen, it were two different executive summaries, because what you read about small business on the website is one thing, but then you go into email data and you see that, actually there is, like you see one pricing structure on the website, then you go and you see how pricing is communicated in reality, how competitive advantages are communicated in reality, how solutions are communicated, and you understand it's different. And so you understand like real executive summary, how your team communicates the values of your business. And then we understood, okay, that POC was kind of very successful. And we decided, okay, then we can continue building. So then we build this classification. So now we can understand, like we can understand ideal customer profiles. So then we can compare and understand, like, okay, who is ICP and who is not ICP. So yeah, so we build all these incremental steps. We thought it's going to be much easier. But now, yes, now we can connect just automatically and generate this report in PDF. And probably sometime next month is going to be already in the app, in the product, and these reports will be generated instantly.
Well, fascinating journey, Vadim. We did cover or touch on ideal customer profiles last time. One thing that you brought up here, which we'll get into future sessions, is knowledge graphs, right? That was a big part of what you just described there, of taking unorganized emails and putting them into a structure that AI could understand. And then another big topic that we want to probably take into our breakout sessions here is around security, right? So we're all very cautious about giving all of our data to OpenAI or any of these other public LLMs. And so, that's an issue that you touched on here that I'm sure folks will want to hear from each other on how we're addressing that. So, Vadim, thank you for sharing your journey of using AI with email. I think it provokes a lot of talking points for all of us here now to go into breakouts. So, Paul, can you take us away?
Yeah, well, thank you, Vadim and Matthew. That was great. And as always, we provide an environment where you can actually engage with your fellow leaders. And so we're going to go into breakout rooms. You're going to have a moderator on each one that will help kick it off. Please be ready to introduce yourselves just very briefly, 30 seconds or less, just on who you are, what you're doing. And then if you have a case study or use case that you would like to put on the table to discuss with the group and share, that would be great. Let them know as you're introducing yourself. And then we're going to return to the main lobby here probably about 20 minutes after the hour to just summarize what we learned. And do make notes. We put together a database from the very beginning of all the various tools that each of you have found valuable in your own companies. So we continue to update that. So with that, we're going to open up the room. So